Okay.
Welcome to the show today, and I'm very, very excited because we have as a guest the one and only, yes, the one and only, Miss Kiki Dee. Kiki, hello, lovely to see you.
How are you?
I'm great. It's been way too long. The years are flying by, and our paths haven't collided.
We're doing okay.
We are doing okay. We're doing just great. Yeah, it is the question really of the moment. How are you coping in your bubble?
Well, the first word that always comes to mind is grateful. I'm feeling grateful. I live in a nice village out of London, and I've got people around me, you know, to support me. I've got a bubble with my music partner Carmelo and his family. And we've got our studio here, so we've been doing a new album, and everything's not too bad.
Well, that's great news. That sounds fantastic, considering the world at this moment. First of all, is it Kiki or Pauline? I should have asked you that first time we met.
Well, I think with us, it's Keek.
In that case, Keek.
K-W-K, Keek.
It's a long way from Little Horton. What is your earliest memory?
My earliest memory, I was born in Bradford, of course, Little Horton, Bradford. And my first memory, one of the first memories is I was near my house walking with my dad, and I ran ahead. And then he caught up and I grabbed his hand, and it wasn't my dad. And it frightened me, it was somebody else. So that's one of my first memories of my house and my street. Yeah.
That is scary. Well, how old would you have been at that point?
Very tiny.
Yeah.
Very tiny. But I have a lovely memory of when I went to London to audition. All the neighbours came out to wave and wish me luck.
Oh.
Which was really sweet. I went off with my dad in our family car and off to London to audition in '63, that was.
That was a good year.
A very good year.
Well, we'll come to '63. But staying with those early days, was it a musical family that you came from?
It was a musical family in the sense that my brother and sister are musical. But I think it was a matter of opportunity. I think a lot of people have talents, whether it's music, whatever it may be, that they never actually discover that they've got. So my sister plays piano, having said that. My brother's a good singer, but they never actually took it forward in their lives. So we are musical.
And entering school, did you take to school?
Yeah, I did actually. Oh. Yeah. My sister, who's always been adorable towards me, 2 years older than me, she took me, and I was 5, of course, in those days. And I loved it. Yeah, I always loved it. Very social. Yeah.
Perhaps more importantly, did school take to you? Did they recognize your talents?
Well, not academically, it didn't. Because I got that wonderful report that everybody I know in the music business, or a musician, says, when I was little, the teacher said, you know, I'd do very well if I wasn't looking out of the window the whole time, dreaming about being a singer or a musician, you know. Oh. And so, yeah, I always had designs on the more artistic things in life, should we put it that way?
I think I had that very same window in my school.
Yes.
I went back a couple of years ago to my primary school, and I walked into the classroom that I'd been, and I knew every inch of that window and the view from it. It was very strange, you know, 50, maybe 60 years on, to actually go back and see that something that I.
It's good though, isn't it? It's good to do that, I think.
It is fun. It is fun. It is very strange. But yeah, I got something from it. Quite what, I don't know, but I got something. You hit your teens as the '60s dawned. Did you rebel?
Not particularly. I mean, I had my own universe. You know, I went off to coffee shops in Bradford with my friends, and I thought I was a bit of a mod. You know, I was a young mod because, of course, mods and rockers were just a few years older. But no, I didn't particularly rebel. But I was allowed to have my space, if you like, and go out with my friends. So at 16, you know, 15, 16. So it wasn't too bad, really.
What was Bradford like? I mean, was there a music scene there?
I loved it. I loved Bradford. There was a lot of, it was a great city to walk around, unlike today, unfortunately. I don't know what they've done to it. It's like a huge ring road nowadays. But there were lovely departmental stores and little shops, and you could get on the bus from where I lived, go down to town and just hang out with your friends and go to these lovely stores and look at the lovely things. And yeah, it had a sort of great character and atmosphere in those days, you know, which I don't recognise now, unfortunately. But I think it's, you know, it's a little bit on its knees, Bradford. It needs an injection of money, you know.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of places need that, as I see here in Liverpool.
Yes, absolutely.
Can you tell us a little about the Boots the Chemist years?
I only worked at Boots Chemist for 12 weeks.
But it's become legend. It's become linked with you.
I'll never live it down, no. I was on the men's counter. And our biggest seller was not something for the weekend. Oh. It was at Wilkinson Sword Edge Razor Blades. I'm advertising now.
Oh, that's okay.
That's what we sold the most of. And we were very giddy. There was another girl on my counter with me. We had our little white jackets. And we just giggled the whole time because we'd just left school and we were quite young and, you know, having a laugh, really.
So how did the whole music thing start then? You were spotted, you talked about the whole street waving you off. Did it all happen at once? Was it a slow process? What was the beginning of being spotted, perhaps?
It was fairly gradual. From about the age of 9 or 10, I discovered that I could get a lot of attention from singing, and I could sing in tune.
What would you be singing? What kind of songs would you be singing?
Songs of the day, you know, like classics, I Wish You Love, and some of the pop stuff like Brenda Lee and Paul Anka, people like that. You know, Sweet Nothings, I used to sing Brenda Lee. Some of the early Elvis stuff, you know. So it was a combination of the remains of the jazz era type of big band stuff and the new rock and roll. You know, I think I was born at a very interesting time, being a teenager in '63.
It was good timing. You certainly had good timing from the word go, yeah.
Yeah, because it was a whole evolvement in the '60s in London, particularly in London, and '63 of the Beatles and the Stones and all the art that was coming out of England and the films, the black and white reality films, you know, the genre of gritty northern towns and Alan Bates and Albert Finney. Yeah. It was a very exciting time to go to London, you know.
I bet. So what would have been the first big break, as it were? Was it Fontana signing?
Yeah, I guess it was. I got discovered singing in Leeds with a dance band.
Whereabouts in Leeds? Whereabouts in Leeds?
I'm not sure where it was called, where it was, but it was called the Astoria. It's not up. It's, you know, it's been demolished. But yeah, the Astoria Ballroom. Used to sing with the band, and somebody heard me singing and sent a recording to Fontana Records in London. So I drove down and auditioned.
And you passed the audition, I take it.
Got through, and in fact, I went to a 70th birthday party recently, and Mitch Murray was there, who was around at that time. He wrote my first single. He was a songwriter, and he said that he was actually at the audition, and of course I'd completely forgotten that he was there. And yeah, it was very interesting. It's funny, you know. I'm not someone, I dwell very much in the present. I've always been like that. So when it comes to going back, it's why I haven't done a book.
I was going to ask that. Yes, where's the autobiography?
Because I just don't think in terms of then, I think in terms of now.
Okay.
It's the way I am. It's a good and a bad thing because I can't remember very much what went down particularly.
Well, we will come to the present. in
If
this
I'm going to
short
write the
while,
book, I'm going to have to do it soon because all the people who are going to remember for me won't be here anymore. So,
well, I think the book needs to be written absolutely because, well, it's history, isn't it? It is social
but for
history.
me, I mean, I'm not sure it's going to make a lot of difference to the universe, but for me, it's my history, And it'd be nice for my family, actually, for the
Yeah,
kids coming up,
yeah.
the young adults in the family and people like that.
It is a fascinating thing to do because I was asked to write my own autobiography a few years ago, much to my surprise.
Did you
And
do it?
I did do it, and it came out.
Yeah.
And much to my surprise, considering that my mother is long dead, it actually sold copies, which was great. But it is a very strange experience to sit down and try and trace everything back and find, what links everything together. So I heartily recommend it, and especially with a story like yours to be told.
Well, I just started reading Simple Dreams by Linda Ronstadt,
Right.
who's had, I didn't know that she'd had so many health issues and she hasn't sung for years and years. She's had quite a time. And her, I've just started it and I think she's quite articulate and I think it's going to be an interesting read.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's just a question of just starting and talking and talking and talking and letting the story come, and interesting yourself in it as much as you can. Who were the other artists on the label at that time, and were you meeting them, and what was it like? Because you were a young girl, the Beatles were there, the Rolling Stones were out there. Suddenly you were part of that scene. I mean, I can't even imagine. As a young boy at the time, it was heady days for me. And I was way outside, nowhere near the music scene to have been in it. I can't even imagine what that would be, stepping inside that extraordinary world.
Well, I had sort of two hats. I had my, when I went to Bradford, it took 5.5 hours to get home on the train from London in those days, believe it or not.
Mm.
So I had my kind of Bradford hat and I had my new life, in London hat. And it was quite difficult at first, because everybody up north was going, what kind of a name is Kiki Dee? Sounds a bit weird. And but I think when you're young, you're very open in a sense. You're ready for change. You're ready for, you know that your life's beginning. You don't think about it every day, but you've got this sense of openness. And so meeting, Paul McCartney in a nightclub eventually became quite normal. Or, meeting Wayne Fontana and the Mindbenders and those people that were on the label, the Trogs, all these rock bands. Yeah, in fact, I introduced Eric Stewart to my best friend, and they've been married ever since, so that worked out well.
Oh, how very wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. You were doing backing vocals with Dusty. What are your memories of, and how would you describe Dusty Springfield?
One of the great UK popular singers. I got discovered, of course, by this label, and then they gave me a manager, Victor Billings, an artist manager. And 2 weeks after he signed me, he signed Dusty. So suddenly there was this big star that I adored, who was 7 years older than me, in our stable, if you like. And I got to do backups for her with Madeleine Bell and a few other girl singers. We sang on some of Dusty's early singles. So it was a great experience for me in the studio. She was one of the first women who knew what she wanted, because in those days it was very male dominated. And I can sort of remember doing photo sessions with a newspaper and the bloke going, oh, just pull your skirt up a little bit, Kiki, we can't see your knees, and all that kind of stuff was going on.
How did you react to that as a Bradford girl? And
oh, well, I just noted it.
And pulled your skirt up.
I didn't forget, I always noted things and, kept them cool. But yeah, no, I sang with Dusty, and I actually met Robert Plant fairly recently, a couple of years ago, and we did some shows with him actually. Well, that's a long story, but he said to me, Kiki, you sang on one of my early records.
Really?
And I said, did I? Again, it's the old memory. And I'm just trying to think what it was called. Oh gosh, I can't remember. 3 words, something like No, can't think of it. But someone should look it up. It's 1965, a single, Robert Plant single.
Fantastic.
I'll try and remember as we keep talking.
Yeah.
I also sang Love Affair, you know, the Love Affair song, Everlasting Love. Quite a lot of pop records. We made a living, really, made some money to pay the bills. Just had a little flat in London, which was, you know, £10 a week, I think, at the time. But it was quite hard to find £10 a week in those days, you know.
Yeah, a lot of money. They did change your name. How much freedom did you have? And was it a problem at all to you, or were you happy to go along with the suggestions from record company managers and so on?
I wasn't very, you know, I didn't have any idea. I mean, I was completely green. And I went along. But again, I always was quite someone who observed and learned quickly and got more and more confidence in myself as I went along, you know. And but they were much older than me. You see, I was a kid still, so I was working with all these people of, you know, 30 in their 30s, 40s, you know. Yeah. So yeah, you know, I took advice really.
Yeah. Your first album, I'm Kiki Dee. Did it capture how you saw yourself?
I don't know really. I just, as I said, I tried to pick the best songs and the songs that I related to. You know, that I was offered, because I didn't write, of course. I didn't play an instrument. And I did quite a lot of American covers on that first record. I covered How Glad I Am, Nancy Wilson's song. I covered Why Don't I Run Away From You, Tammy Lynn, Can't Take My Eyes Off You, around that period. So I did a lot of covers as well.
And then you were in the movies. Suddenly there's a movie, Dateline Diamonds, which has been shown a lot over the last couple of years on the Talking TV station, I think it's called. You and Kenneth Cope and Small Faces and so on.
I didn't get any lines in it, Tim.
You didn't get any lines in it, but you're
a
crucial part of the plot.
And looked kind of interesting, like on a boat going, oh, there's the ship. It was a music business sort of film about some diamond smugglers in Holland. I was this Dutch singer, and they were smuggling diamonds from a pirate radio ship. So it was a little bit, you know, inaccurate, but it's got a kind of campness about it, if you know what I mean. That film, it's really interesting.
Very 1965, isn't it? It really captures the period so well, I think.
Yes.
And
yes,
some wonderful people in it. I mean, you know,
Small Faces in it.
Yeah. A fun watch, definitely.
I was excited to be in a film, you know, very excited.
And then comes the 70s and Rocket Records. And how did Rocket Records come about? Had you been working with Elton?
Prior to Rocket, there was my Motown album, which I did.
Yeah.
But then I did. There's a box set now at the moment out on Demon Records. Actually, it's nice because all my stuff's now out on CDs finally. There's some box sets out of the early years, you know. But I met Elton through doing a session on a TV show. Elton was doing a session on it as well as a singer, and we met. And then, of course, 3 or 4 years later, he started Rocket Records, and I was invited to go and talk to them and meet Elton again, and got to be on the label.
And not only got to be on the label, but I mean, it sort of took you to the toppermost of the poppermost, as they say.
Yeah, I mean, it was 10 years. It was 10 years, Tim, before I had a hit record from my first recordings. And it was 73 with Amoureuse and on Rocket Records, which Elton produced. And I think a lot of people don't realise that he actually produced that single and started writing. He was one who said, he used to send me Jackson Browne albums and Joni Mitchell albums from the early 70s period. And so, you know, you should start writing. And so it was a very special time in that I was getting recognition.
I was going to say, I mean, you'd been singing backing some of his songs, had you not? All of the Young Girls Love Alice and...
Not prior to my stuff, but then, of course, because I was in that stable, in that company, I got to sing on a lot of his albums, and it was a lot of fun. You know, I used to go to Paris to do sessions and sang. I can't remember the tracks I sang on, but I sang on quite a lot of them.
After a 10-year period, then suddenly you are there. You're right at the top. It's hit after hit. And what was it like after that? You know, you've had 10 years and suddenly you're elevated. How did you react? Did it go to your head? Were you a good Bradford girl? Did you remain who you were? Did it change you in any way?
I think that whole period with Elton was my growing up in a way. And also I got to be the teenager that I'd never been able to be, really, because I was plucked out of my teens into this world of professionalism and being a professional singer and trying to make it, always trying to make it. So, you know, I had a lot of fun in my 20s through that period. And, you know, discovered men and had a ball, really, and it was a lot of fun. And didn't get too carried away, you know, a little bit occasionally, but kept my head on my shoulders, being a Yorkshire girl. And also, it was just crossing my mind, Tim, that because it took me so long to make it, because it took me 10 years to become, to have any kind of success, I think that held me in good stead.
Yeah.
But I think if it happens overnight and then it's taken away from you, it's a bit of a shock.
Yeah.
But I was used to ups and downs. I've always had ups and downs in my career since then, you know, periods when I was productive and successful, and periods when I was thinking, what am I going to do now? You know, what's my next step? So, yeah.
Right in the middle of that success came Don't Go Breaking My Heart. With Elton, which has sort of become, I don't even know how to describe that song. I mean, it's one of those songs that's just so huge forever, sort of, and it is a thing of great beauty to see whenever it comes on. I mean, you're instantly uplifted by it. It is beautiful, and it's funny.
We look like Andy, Pandy and Teddy, don't we? I mean, we look so young.
It's a great outfit that you're wearing. It is. It's very, I mean, when is that? Middle of the 70s. So that sums up the middle of the 70s, yeah.
I was older than you realise, actually. I was 29 when I did that. But, you know, it's a funny thing because I had no attachment to that record. I just enjoyed doing it. I enjoyed doing that video, which took about 20 minutes to record in a studio for a TV show. We thought it was going to be on Top of the Pops or whatever for a couple of weeks, you know, and thinking, you know, we did it very quickly and had no attachment. And then here we are all these years down the line. I once did an interview and the guy said to me, "Don't Go Breaking My Heart, milestone or millstone," which I thought was very
yes.
And I always say milestone because, you know, anything that projects you and keeps you in the public eye, you know, my association with Elton, because he's become such an icon. I mean, he was iconic in a sense, but he's so much, has kept me in a position where I can keep going and have a slightly lower profile than him, obviously. But, you know, occasionally it's been difficult to move on musically from some of the stuff I did early on. But I think that's just something you live with and you just appreciate the good side of it.
Yeah. Well, it's ever-changing times, isn't it? And how do you relate to that? It's artistically, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's a bit like an actor. No one expects, you know, a 30-year-old actor to do a part, the part they did when they were 16, because you've matured and you've changed. And so, yeah, but, you know, I'm one of those people that I tend to try and look for the positive in things. You know, you know, obviously I can be negative like everybody, but my overriding nature is to look for the answer, look for the positive, you know.
Very good. And speaking of the positive, Live Aid, you were there at Live Aid. I mean,
that was great fun.
were you conscious at the time? Because now just the very words send a shiver down the backbone.
Yeah.
Such an amazing, legendary moment in time. Were you aware that day of the enormity of it?
I think so, yeah. The wonderful thing was I'd had a low profile for 2 or 3 years. I wasn't competing with trying to get a hit or making records at that time. And so I went along with my niece, who was about 16 at the time, and we just had a great day. And I knew that I could sing Don't Go Breaking My Heart in my sleep, you know. So I wasn't nervous. I got up in my funny little pink outfit, which looked like I was in bed, actually. I had the spiky hair and this pink outfit. And I just loved it. And I knew that it was a big day because of the fact that it was broadcast to so many people around the world. And it was doing such a great thing. It was nice to be a part of something without the pressure, you know, because if you do it, I mean, imagine doing a set at Live Aid, you must be a little bit attached to how well it's going to go, you know, because it's never going to be forgotten, is it?
Right.
So to just pop on and do a couple of BVs and then sing Don't Go Breaking My Heart was a bliss, really, you know. It was good fun.
Amazing times. And then you're in Blood Brothers.
Yeah.
How did that come about? And were you, had you thought about acting before? Had that ever entered your, apart from in the movie, of course, Dateline Diamonds,
Yeah.
had acting come into your world before Willie Russell?
A little bit in my mind, but I think that it's a great skill, acting, and I don't think that, you know, once I'd got a few hit records, I used to get offered, you know, heroin addicts on sort of TV cop shows.
Right.
And I thought, if I turn up and play this part of a rock star, you know, and they don't give me enough time to film, because I didn't have any experience of how to film a scene. I could really, you know, really not do it right. So I turned it down. Does that make sense? Because I've got a lot of respect for acting, and I think this, you know, it's a great skill. And you can't just say, right, I'm an actor, you know.
No.
Now with the stage part, you've got time to learn the part, rehearse it, and it's on a bigger screen, if you like. It's in a theatre, and everything that you do is bigger.
Did it come naturally to you? Did you find it came naturally to you? Did
It was incredibly hard work, because I auditioned for Bill Kenwright, and we opened in Rep 3 weeks later. So I had 3 weeks to learn it, to learn all the moves, all the choreography, and start touring it. So I had a script under my pillow. It was quite hard work. It's amazing what you can do, isn't it, if you have to?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, and it, you know, I was very lucky, because before it came to London, I toured it for a year around the UK. So by the time we got to London, where the pressure was on for it to do well, I've been doing it for a year. So, and it had got better and better. We got better stage sets, you know, and I got more comfortable with it. So it all worked. It was a fantastic thing in my life. I'm very appreciative of it. And I found out that I was a good team player as well. I loved working with actors like Sarah Lancashire and Con O'Neill. You know, they were just so good. And I found that when I worked with really good actors, they listened. And I think acting's a lot about listening to the other person and not just saying your line, because at first I was just saying my lines, you know, and I learned to listen to the other character that I was working with. So they were fantastic.
And you got the Olivier Award.
I didn't get the Olivier, but I got nominated.
Well, that's the same thing.
Barbara Dixon got it. She did it originally in Liverpool with Willie Russell. She got the Olivier. And that was about 6 years earlier. And for some reason, it only ran in London for a few months. But our production ran for 24 years. Isn't that incredible?
That is amazing.
And but I didn't mind losing to Patricia Rutledge, because You know, there are all these great actresses up for it, Imelda Staunton, Trisha Rutledge, and people like that. So just to get nominated was lovely. You know?
Absolutely, no, absolutely. Now, shortly after that, I think Carmelo comes on the scene. Can you? How did your paths collide? And you've been linked ever since. Tell us a little about Carmelo.
Yeah, I mean, I did some work in the mid-'80s with Dave Stewart from Eurythmics, who became a mate of mine, just as they were about to launch Eurythmics. And he played me a couple Sweet Dreams and Love is a Stranger. And we were pals. And I did a bit of work with him. But, you know, I found my feet really when I let go. I spoke to Steve Brown, who was always part of the Elton John years. And I did a duet on an Elton album, which was a duets album. And we got back in touch, and he introduced me to Carmelo, and he said, you know, you ought to go out and do some acoustic shows and just start writing, and really seriously writing again, and just kind of just start something different, you know. And it felt good because it was like going back to the basics of music again. And all, in a way, ironically, it's what I would have liked to have done in my teens, you know. In hindsight, of course, we can all speak in hindsight, can't we? You know, learn to write, learn who I was as a singer. What was my area? You know, was I a folk singer? Was I a pop singer? Was I a jazz singer? You know, rather than just being thrown in and having to discover in the public eye. So it was kind of like going back and starting over. And we've been working together for the last 25 years. We're working on a new album at the moment, which is keeping me sane, you know, because I've got something to focus on every day. We've written 10 songs and we've got all the tracks.
What is the process of working together? How does that come about from a day-to-day sort of?
Well, we're very lucky. We've got our own studio and we can make our own. Carmelo produces, and he's an amazing guitarist, as you know. Songwriting's always different. I might come up with a riff or a tune. He might come up with something, and then I write some words. And he's very good. I write some really quirky things down. He'll say, oh, that line, that's the gem. Make that the title or whatever, you know, work on that. So it's a true collaboration, really. I'm very, very excited about the new album because I really, really like it. If that sounds crazy enough. I really enjoyed writing.
Doesn't sound crazy at all. Can you tell us a little about it then? You know, does it delve into your past? Is it very up to date?
Some of the stuff we've written was written just before COVID happened. And it's ironic because some of the lyrics, it's really spooky in places for me, are kind of almost like they were written when COVID was happening at the beginning, you know. People say nothing from today will still remain or be the same. You know, that's the beginning of one song. It's like, woo, you know. And, but no, it's a country blues sort of vibe to it. And I'm quite proud of it. And it's sounding really great. It's going to take us, it's not going to be out till next year, we're 2020 now, it'll be next year. Yeah, so, but we'll see what happens.
Fantastic. Going way back and yet staying here today, would the child Pauline get on with the woman Kiki?
Can you repeat that, Tim? I just didn't.
Would the child Pauline get on with the woman you are today? And vice versa?
That's a really good question, actually, because one of the things about getting older, which is good, is, for me personally, I can't speak for anybody else, is that I now feel more like the person that I was when I was a young child or when I was growing up, when I was a young teen. I feel like I went out and experimented with the world when I was young and had all these amazing adventures and invented myself, found myself, developed. And now I'm kind of who I was again. So I think they get on like a house on fire, actually.
Oh, well, that's very nice. That's the nicest answer I've had to that question. And I'm hoping you can follow it with this. This is the question I've been asking in interviews since the early 1970s when I did my first interview with somebody. And I feel certain you will whiz through this one. Can you tell us the meaning of life?
Not really, but for me, if I walk, as I was saying at the beginning, I live in a village and I'm very lucky. I'm quite near, I can get around and get to London if I need to and places like that. But if I walk out into nature, on a walk, it always lifts me up. Because I think that's the meaning of life is, you look at animals who don't have the brains we've got, but then they don't mess it up like we do, because we've almost got too much intelligence and we mess everything up. So I think for me, the meaning of life is if you look at the very simple things, like animals out in a field, or, horses, any animal really. And you see the nature of things. I think the nature of things is the meaning of life.
Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Couldn't agree more with that. Looking back into the past, looking forward into the future, looking at today, have you painted your masterpiece?
Do you mean have I done my ultimate work?
Yeah, I do.
Well, I do make a mean cup of coffee, actually. I don't really, I think as long as I've still got the enthusiasm to keep trying, to keep coming up with something that I have faith in and I believe in, and that is authentic to me, because that's a word that I always was striving for. It took me a few years to find that. I've no idea how. You see, the thing is that I think you can take yourself too seriously. Because I sometimes think, now, what if I hadn't been born, it wouldn't really make any difference to anything. But what I think one of my blessings is that I do cheer people up. So my masterpiece is me on a good day when I'm uplifting people and loving my friends and my family. I think that's the masterpiece.
Oh, that'll do.
I'm not being sentimental, but I really do. Because we all get all wrapped up in our egos, don't we? And that usually comes from fear anyway.
Yeah.
And but I'm happiest when I'm out of my own way and just doing what I do.
Yes, fantastic answers. Absolutely. You've mentioned the album coming out next year. Looking ahead into the future as much as we can these days. Anything else lined up?
Well, I've actually missed gigging. We couldn't gig this year, of course, do our acoustic show. Hopefully we'll be able to get out next year. And hopefully I've got the energy. I get a bit nervous these days. Or what if I haven't got the energy to tour anymore, But you just have to face everything as it comes along. And, I'm taking everything a week at a time at the moment, like we all have to, don't we? And I know a lot of people are in a much worse position than I am, and I'm grateful, really am.
I have to say, we've just been chatting for just over half an hour or so, and this is the most uplifting interview I've done in my life. There's something that comes from you. So,
well, I think it's we know each other, which helps, doesn't it?
Possibly.
If the people who are watching this can imagine, you're on this little device and you can see this person on this screen, and you've never met them, you don't know who they are, you don't know what their agenda is. Whereas I know that you're a good guy, and that makes me more relaxed and more able to be myself. Does that make sense?
I wish you'd said that earlier, because that would have been on the cover of that as a quote on my autobiography. But I appreciate it now. And speaking of autobiographies, having listened to you just over the last half hour or so, please write it, because by goodness, we've just merely uncovered the surface here, and there's so much to your tale. And I think so many people like myself would find it so uplifting to hear the ups and the downs, and how you've coped and what you've done, and just your thoughts in general. And while we are stuck inside, it could well be a project that might just flow from you. So if I can push.
Well, you know what? You've got me thinking seriously. I mean, I have been asked by people, even people I know and like, if I want to do it. And yeah, I'm going to give it some serious thought, Tim. I really am.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, I'm very happy. I'm very happy to hear that. And on that note, it's been a delight, Kiki. Absolute delight. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. And lots of love.